Hey, what's up everybody? It's Danny with Hip Hops. Today I'm going to be doing Tim from Highnoon Vinyl's hip hop vinyl tag for 2021. If you don't know Tim at Highnoon Vinyl, he decided to do a hip hop version of the vinyl tag movement, which I know there's been a lot of soul vinyl, or I think Tim just did a prog vinyl. Even a blues I've seen going around recently, and hip hop seems to be a very underappreciated genre in the VC community, the VC. And so I wanted to jump in. I've been watching all of the hip hop vinyl tags that have come up and really enjoyed them. I wanted to take a shot at doing my own here. So first of all, there's 15 questions. I add an additional one at the end, just because Tim suggested if you wanted to add any questions, if you think of anything else, go ahead and do it. So the first one being first hip hop purchase. So I'm gonna stick with vinyl here. I had a lot of CDs as I was growing up that were hip hop, but my first hip hop vinyl purchase was Felt 3 by Felt. And Felt, this is on Rhyme Sayers Entertainment's and through Fat Beats. Felt is Slug, the MC from Atmosphere, along with Merce, who's from the Living Legends crew out in California. And Felt 3 was produced entirely by A$AP Rock. So this is a good one. I picked this up. My wife got me a record player for our wedding, and I was at a bookstore and they had a very small section of used vinyl, and I saw this, and so I decided to pick it up. But if you're not familiar with Felt, definitely check out their first two albums. I do have to say the first two are my favorites, but this is the first one I purchased because I just happened to see it used at the store. So question number 2 is an 80s hip hop album. So I don't have a ton of 80s hip hop. I probably have 5 or 6 records. I was born in 87 and didn't really get into hip hop until the late 90s. But I do have LL Cool J's Bad, Bigger and Deffer. The one thing I like about this album is this is his high school that he's in front of there, and on the back I believe it's like his grandma's house that or in the basement or something like that. The photo is taken. But this is LL Cool J. Everybody knows LL Cool J. I'm Bad, first track on the album, is definitely a hit, and then the I Need Love is probably, without doing too much research, probably one of the first duets that a rapper did with a singer. It was more of a showing the softer side of an MC, which we saw a lot as time went on. So if you're not familiar with my channel, I do pair craft beer with vinyl records. I have all sorts of different genres, but today I'm drinking the Finer Points of Bad Behavior, and this is with peaches. So if you're into saisons or tart beers or anything like that, is from Chicago, where I'm located. You can see the glass here, but it's very delicious fruit beer. So question number 3 is a 90s album. So this one just sneaks in from 1999. One of my favorite artists, not gonna be my top MC, but one of my favorite albums, Black on Both Sides by Mos Def. This is on Raucous Records, which you'll see a lot of on my list. But yeah, Black on Both Sides. This is just probably one of the best hip hop albums there ever has been. I mean, hip hop, Miss Fat Booty, Speed Law, New World Order. Umi Says is a good. If you're not so much into hip hop, check out Umi Says. It's more of like a soul jazz type of track. But yeah, great album. Mos Def now goes by Yasin Bey. You might know him from acting as well. He's been in a few movies. So 2000s or later album Tim was asking for. I decided to do a 2000s, a teens, and then a 2020s album, just because I have my collection is heavy in those decades versus instead of the 80s. So for the 2000s, I picked Blue Scholars by Yanni. Blue Scholars, also on Raucous Records, is a duo from Seattle. And so it's Geologic is the MC, And then the producer, I just blanked on his name, of course. Sabzi, that's right, Sabzi. So these guys are from Seattle, like I said, and they have a very blue collar, but they're more about being like intellectuals. This is on more on the intellectual side of hip hop. So Blue Scholars. If you're not familiar with this, definitely check out North by Northwest, Loyalty, Ordinary Guys, Back Home. I mean, Back Home is a song. So this album came out, of course there's not a date on here, but it came out in the early 2000s, and Back Home is about bringing the troops back home from the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. So that just sort of tells you where this album is. So the 20 teens, I picked one of my favorite producers from the Mellow Music Group label, which is a really great hip hop label if you're not familiar with them. El Orange and Jeremiah J's The Night Took Us In Like Family. And this one is it's a concept album where they're rapping about The Night Took Us In Like Family. I mean, it's like a crime noir where they're like involved in mafias and stuff like that. And so it's a cool concept, and it's on this like gold and black vinyl. El Orange, I have a lot of his albums on vinyl, and the thing that separates him from other producers is the fact that he uses old radio show clips as samples in his songs. So he has a lot of old radio shows from, back in the day that have a lot of discussions about, crime or guns or the mafia, the mob, interlaced in with this album. And he has some other albums with Kool Keith where it's more about like sort of like a intergalactic type of thing. So he uses samples from space radio shows. So 2020's album, I picked Kid Abstract and Amapia. Kid Abstract is a MC from California, and Amapia, I believe, is from Sweden. I'm kind of blanking right now. But it's a very jazzy, as you can tell, the name of the album is called Jazzy Vibes. Very jazzy album. Very nice guy, down to earth, Kid Abstract. Follow him on Instagram. He puts out these cool videos. He signed this for me, which is super cool. All right, so question number 5 for Tim's Countdown is label you associate with hip hop. So as I mentioned before, Raucous Records dominates a lot of my collection and a lot of this list. So here is Raucous Records, the best of Decade 1, 1995 to 2005. And I know a lot of people say late 80s, early 90s is the golden era of hip hop. I am a huge believer, late 90s and then the early 2000s are my golden age of hip hop. And it's mostly due to labels like Raucous Records. So Raucous Records was a all-star lineup of underground hip-hop artists at that time. So Talib Kweli, Mos Def, who I already pointed out, Black Star, who is a combination of Mos Def and Talib Kweli, Styles P, Pharoah Monch, you got Big L's on here, Common with Sadat X, you got a High Tech Track, who's a producer featuring Common, you got another Mos Def featuring Q-Tip, the High and Mighty featuring Mos Def and Skills. There's a lot of, Nate Dogg's on this album. This is a great album, and it has different tracks from the individual artist label. So it's not like they made these tracks for this. This is the best of their releases. So Mos Def's got like Miss Fat Booty on here, Oh No, Black Star's got Definition and Respiration, but it's a great album, great label. If you're not familiar, definitely check them out. And I know Gold Needles also picked Raucous, and there was a couple other picks that I had that he also had. This one though, I couldn't. I thought about going with like Mellow Music Group, but I couldn't. Raucous Records was just that important in my late middle school and then through high school, undergrad time in my life. Number 6, a hip hop single. So with this one, I picked something from Redef Records, which is another hip hop label. This is Damu the Fudge Monk, and it is his remix of Panacea's Walk in the Park. So Panacea was a rap group who was also on, I believe they released it on Raucous Records. At least one of their albums was on Raucous Records. And then it is K Murdoch, and of course I'm blanking on what the MC's name is right now. But it was one of my favorite albums, and I don't have any other stuff on vinyl. I'm still searching for it. A lot of it that I find is in Europe, and the shipping's pretty expensive, so I haven't gone about trying to get it here yet. But Panacea's Walk in the Park, which is a great track. Definitely check out the original as well as the Damu, the Fudge Monks remix of it. Number 7, a female MC. So I was gonna pick Rhapsody, which was already taken by one of the other VC members who did this. So I went with a Chicago artist who is where I live. No Name. This is Telephone, her first album. This was released on Vinyl Me Please, and I'm not sure how many of them they made, but it's pretty difficult to find now. I got this off of her limited to 1,500. There you go. I got this off of her website, so she did get a few of the Vinyl Me Please ones. If you're not familiar with No Name, this is again her first album, my favorite of her albums. Yesterday, Diddy Bop. I mean, really the whole album's great, but start with Yesterday and Diddy Bop. Promise you will not be disappointed if you're even a slightest fan of hip hop music. All right, an artist we lost. So I know this is one of the more recent losses in hip hop, but on Stone's Throw Records, Mad Villain, which is MF Doom, and Madlib, who is one of my favorite producers. I just say that because I don't have Madlib on my list, but I wanted to at least be able to mention him, as well as MF Doom. So I'm sure most of you are familiar with Mad Villainy. It's a sort of a alternative hip hop, very sort of out there beats, and then Doom's rhyme skills, which if you're not familiar, check him out. But he has a very original cadence, and his what he rhymes about isn't what most artists rhyme about. So definitely check out Mad Villain as well as the rest of MF Doom's catalog. So a posthumous album. Another one of my favorite producers that I had to get in on this list, J Dilla's The Shining, which is, I thought this was on, it is not OK Player. There you go. I thought it was going to be on Stone's Throw, but it is not. So J Dilla, he died from a rare blood disease and a combination of lupus. The Shining was not complete. So he had, while he was in the hospital battling his disease, he was working on Donuts, which I have here, and he was working on The Shining. So he didn't finish The Shining. Donuts was released, I think it was like 3 days before he passed away. And then The Shining came out later. He had Kareem Riggins, who was another Detroit MC, producer, singer. He had him, J Dilla, and his mom both trusted Kareem Riggins to complete this album after he passed away. So, I mean, just to go over some of the MCs on here, if you're not familiar with J Dilla, he produced a lot of stuff for a lot of artists you probably know, but I mean, I assume most of you are. But on this album, you have a track with Busta Rhymes, Common, Pharoah Monchigan, Madlib, and Guilty Simpson, D'Angelo, Guilty Simpson again, J-Rock, and then Kareem Riggins, who even Black Thought is on this album from The Roots. Definitely a great album. Donuts is a instrumental album, which is a very important album to hip hop. This one though has a lot of MCs on it as well. So if you aren't as into instrumental stuff, give this one a listen and it'll give you a taste, because there's some of the tracks on here are MCs rapping over the instrumentals from Donuts. All right, question number 10, favorite producer. There is a lot of producers I love. I love some of the old school ones. I mean, DJ Premier. I love J Dilla, as I said. I love Madlib, as I said, but I wanted to pick one and shine a light on somebody who doesn't get as much recognition, and that is Ninth Wonder. So if you're not familiar, Ninth Wonder is the producer from Little Brother, who's a hip hop group from North Carolina. And here he is here on this, along with Fonte and rapper Big Pooh. So yes, Little Brother, my favorite hip hop group of all time. So if I added a 17th question, it would be favorite hip hop group, Little Brother. But this here is a release, and this one is from, you know, I should have like written down the dates on all this stuff, and of course I didn't. But this was (2011). There you go. And it's called Wonder Years. And Ninth Wonder has a very soulful style of production. So he uses a lot of old Motown and jazz samples, which I love. It's right up my alley, my favorite kind of hip hop. But this one has, I mean, it's got Fonte, who is from Little Brother, like I said. But then it also has Merce, has a young Kendrick Lamar before he got super big. It's got Tanya Morgan, who's another underground hip hop. Warren G, Sky Zoo, Fashion, Master Killa. It's got a ton of different artists on here. Median, who's another guy that hung out with them a lot. Talib Kweli, Terrence Martin. Yeah, I mean, I could just, Raekwon's on here. Erykah Badu, Rhapsody, who eventually Ninth Wonder would sort of like take under his wing, which Diamond Needles did discuss this a little bit too, but he created Jamla Records eventually. And this is actually part of Jamla Records, which Rhapsody releases a lot of her stuff on. All right, so an artist you have at least 3 albums of. So I'm gonna pick an artist who is one of my favorites. He's a dual threat. He produces a lot of his own music. He produces music for other people, and he also raps. And I have 12 albums of his, and they are some of my favorites. So that artist is Odyssey, which is one of the mainstays from the Mellow Music Group label I was talking about. This is him here. You can see he is Sudanese, and he lives in the Maryland, DC area, hangs out with, or used to hang out a lot with the Low Budget crew, so that's like Kev Brown, Ken Starr. If you're into underground hip hop, you might recognize their names. But Odyssey, so like I said, he raps, so he produced this album and he raps on this album. And The Good Fight is the name of this one. That's Love, definitely, it's the first track on this album. That is probably one of the easiest songs to get into for him, and it's, I have people who aren't even huge fans of hip hop that love that song. So yeah, check out That's Love with this one. And then just to give you a little other flavor, this is Rock Creek Park. I got to see him about a year before the pandemic. He signed this one for me. Rock Creek Park is an instrumental album of his, and so Rock Creek Park is a park in the area where he's from, and the album is a reflection of that park. And then to follow that up, I have one of his albums with Diamond District, which is EXO, YU, and Odyssey. And this is also on Mellow Music Group, and it's a trio where all 3 of them rap, and I think all 3 of them have a hand, or at least Odyssey produces most of this for sure. But this is the remix album actually, so it's got other Ono, El Orange, Large Professor, Apollo Brown, Quelle Chris, Black Milk, Diamond D, Doppelgangers, Knots, and Skiz doing remixes of the album March on Washington. This is the Redux. But just to show you, he has a group that he's in as well. All right, so number 12, a posse cut. And I know this was mentioned by Tim. He didn't show this one, but it's got to be one of the top ones. And I know, to me, there's 2 top posse cuts. And the Scenario is definitely my favorite, but that was also taken by somebody else. This one hasn't officially been taken yet. So here is the Symphony, DJ Marley Marl. And the Symphony is featuring Master Ace, Craig G, Cool G Rap, and Big Daddy Kane. So if you're not familiar, it's got this cool like Western music video. They're out in the Wild West. But no, there you go. This is on In Control Volume 1. And this was released in the 80s. This is another one of my 80s records that I have, 1988. Okay, so a song everyone knows, So with this one, I know there's been a lot of jump around. I saw an MC Hammer, Can't Touch This. Those are all probably bigger than the one I'm getting ready to show. But for me, growing up, Outkast, Stankonia, this album, there could be two of them on here. So Fresh, So Clean, and Miss Jackson. Both those albums, I feel like everybody knows. This is sort of right before, the album right after this one, they had the like Shake It Like a Polaroid Picture, which also might be even a bigger song than these two. But this album is such a great album. Bombs Over Baghdad is my favorite one on this one. And I believe that might have been like one of their first singles on this, but everybody knows Miss Jackson. And when it comes on, you gotta do that. Sorry, Miss Jackson. Woo, I am for real. As well as So Fresh and So Clean. All right, so favorite MC. So favorite MC, it sort of changes for me a lot. I like a lot of different MCs. It depends what mood I'm in. If I want something more aggressive, I'll go with an MC who's more aggressive. If I want something who's more laid back, which is most of the time for me now, I go for more of the jazzy hip hop. So I wanted to showcase one of my favorite rappers right now, and his name is Ivan Av, who is part of the Mutual Intentions crew out of Oslo, Norway. So this is him here. Helping Hands is the name of this album. And this is entirely produced by Mind Design, who is based in California and part of the like Brain Feeder group that's out there. So Ivan Av, he raps and he sings. I love his beat choice. He does a lot of stuff with Fred Fades, who's another guy from Norway. But a lot of his music sort of connects with me. It's more about being like vulnerable, and I know to me he's like a better Drake, and I know it's like I might catch some flack for that, but he raps and he sings like Drake, and he does the more vulnerable side. It just feels more genuine to me. He also gets political in a lot of his songs, and political in like a humanitarian type of way, as well as in a political, what you think of traditionally type of way. But yeah, one of my favorite artists, period, Ivan Av. I have everything that he has put out, and will continue to grab it. And this is on Jakarta Records, which is based out of Cologne, Germany. All right, so favorite hip hop album. So this album was released, I believe, in 1998 or 1999. I'm blanking right now, but I discovered it when I was probably in like 8th grade, which was probably might have been right around there a year later. But somebody played this track for me, and I was like, what is that? And that was sort of something that pushed me into hip hop, because at the time I was into punk music, and so I got into a lot of them, like Immortal Technique, Sage Francis, Atmosphere, Jedi Mind Tricks, like that sort of vein. But this album, when it was shown to me, it definitely portrays more of what I became as a hip hop fan. And I mentioned them earlier. This is Mos Def and Talib Kweli are Black Star. So yeah, Mos Def, Talib Kweli, Raucous Records. What do you need to know? This is a bootleg, an Italian bootleg, which I didn't even realize it was when I got it. But yeah, it's on this clear, cloudy vinyl. But one of the greatest albums. This is the only one. Apparently there's rumors that there's another album coming out with Black Star, which I think is supposed to include Madlib. But a lot of the production on here, you got the Beat Miners. High Tech did a lot of this, which High Tech is part of Talib Kweli's. He was sort of like Talib Kweli's producer for a long time, and Reflection Eternal was the group that they call themselves. J. Rawls produces Brown Skin Lady, which is one of my favorite tracks on here. But I mean, this whole album is great, top to bottom. They have Children's Story, which is a play off of like a Slick Rick track. Very, very good album. It's got features from another sort of a posse cut, Wordsworth, Punchline on here, and Twice in a Lifetime, Jane Doe, who I never heard anything from after this. But she's a good female MC, at least on this track. And then yeah, Black Thought, Common's on here. This is such a good album, but definitely check this one out. Favorite hip hop album. All right, and last but not least, so that was all of Tim's questions. I decided to add one more. Hip hop is so US centric, I feel like. I already mentioned Drake, who's Canadian, but I feel like it's such a US centric genre that I wanted to create a question for favorite foreign MC. And I've already had a couple of them with Ivan Av from Norway, and I believe MF Doom was actually born in London. I could be wrong on that one. But so one of my favorite groups right now, and again, I'm really into the jazzy hip hop, Summer's Sons and C Tappin'. So Summer's Sons are two brothers. One of them, Slim Beats, does the production, and Turt does the rhyming, the MC work. And these guys are from the UK, and C Tappin', which they have them. So C Tappin' is here, Slim Beats, Turt, and then C Tappin' is the cousin of the brothers, and he does all the singing, he does a lot of piano work. So there's some keys in here that they sort of sample into the track, which are from C Tappin'. And I love everything these guys have done. I love the stuff that they've done outside of Summer's Sons. I mean, Turt's been on a couple other albums. C Tappin' has his own album, which I own. Slim Beats has his own beat tape as well. I just love the cool bap, is what they call it, but it's boom bap with a lot of heavy jazz influence, and I just love this stuff. I love jazz music, and so I really love this. But this album is called Uhuru. Check it out if you're into sort of like a slow flow jazzy hip hop. So that is my hip hop vinyl tag of 2021. I look forward to seeing more as they come out, and I hope that anyone who sees this is inspired to create their own. And I'll definitely be nudging some of my friends in the VC community to try to keep this going, because I feel like, again, it's such a underappreciated genre in the VC. So if you're not familiar with me, follow me on hip hops on Instagram as well as on YouTube. And like I said, I usually pair the craft beer with a vinyl based on name or artist or imagery on the album or the can or the bottle. So until next time, check out some new music. I definitely just dropped some artists who you may not be familiar with. Check them out and drink some good new beer. And I'll see you guys in a week or so. Cheers.